I would most likely hate them. So, about 2 weeks ago, Camilla Andrew's debut novel hit the shelves. When the Stars Alight is a gothic fantasy with beautiful language and vivid descriptions. The author really did a great job to mix elegance with brutality and gore in a way that really grabs your attention. This book contains some spice. I didn't find it to be too much, but if it's something you're uncomfortable with, I would recommend you stay clear of this book, especially since it isn't always the hot and nice kind. There's at least one kind of awkward, uncomfortable scene as well. Also, in the same vines, there is a love triangle. I know it isn't everyone's cup of tea, so I'm just putting it out there. If it's a deal breaker for you, you know now and not later on. On a lighter note, if you don't like flowery and lyrical prose, then this book might also not be for you. Personally, I'm of the opinion that everything has its time and place, and to me, everything worked really well in this book. The prose, for example, felt very accurate with the world building, making me believe that a more straightforward language might have come off a bit distant and awkward. In my last video, I talked about a cozy fantasy novel that made me forget to eat. When the Stars Alight is kind of the opposite of that one, in a way that we have grand adventures and political intrigue and a grand vivid world that feels more like a part of the story. We also have a whole lot of food descriptions. Luckily for me, I enjoy both kinds of books. Besides, this book is also very character driven, which is right up my alley. The characters felt very developed, and even the unlikable characters felt intentional and real. I will be honest and say that I wouldn't like to meet probably any of these characters. I would most likely hate them if they were real life people, especially the main character does some things that I would really just not vibe with. But they were definitely interesting to read about. The characters and their relationships with each other was probably one of my favorite aspects of the book. I do see this story being in 2 parts. Why? Because I feel like they are very different from each other. That's not to say that they didn't connect well, but I do kind of have different thoughts on the first part and the second part. Like I mentioned, there is a love triangle, and I do feel like that plays a huge role in where the book is split for me. The first half of the book had me completely hooked. The relationships between the characters were amazing, and there were side plots just having me wishing for more. I've heard other people talk about this book, and I haven't heard this opinion, but Layla and Domina's relationship was a part that I really, really enjoyed. It was sweet, and it was the kind of relationship that has me personally smiling to myself and giggling while I'm reading it. If you read this book and disagree with me, Please let me know why I'm wrong down in the comments, so I can either be convinced or convince you that you're wrong. The second part is the part that I would call where shit really hits the fan. It's where we kind of shift from a romantic plotline to a more political one, even if this is also the part where we get to explore our main pairing. When I reread this book, I will probably go into it a little bit different. This time I got into it expecting it to be a romance novel, and while it kind of is, or maybe more of a love story, it wasn't the type of romance I expected it to be. To me, like I said, the relationship between Lila and Dominus felt more romantic, while Lila's relationship with Darius felt more based on attraction, which is absolutely fine, maybe just not my idea of romance. Also, since I'm really bad with names, the fact that Dominus and Darius' names were kind of similar had me confused until I got the hang of who was who. I will say though that if you like political war, actual war, messed up family dynamics, sex and death, the second part of the book does that really well. Well, the first part of the book also does those things pretty good. Especially the messed up families part. To tie it all up, even if the characters were well written and interesting, none of them really grabbed me. There was also some loose ends that felt kind of abandoned, but I can forgive that if they are all pretty little bows by the end of the series. Overall, I really enjoyed reading this book, and I will absolutely follow this series all the way to the end. I'm looking forward to see where Camilla's journey will take her and where she will take us in future books. If you have any book recommendations for me, please leave them below. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, I almost forgot. I got so caught up talking about the contents of this book that I completely forgot to mention the cover. I'm starting to believe that I let covers completely guide me to books, because this one is also absolutely horrifyingly beautiful. And the illustrations are also on point. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great adventure, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Because overall I enjoyed writing. No, I didn't write shit.